bracket for another day. They had to shoot it one more time down to 4 seconds. Lee will take one from the logo. No good. Jackson Davis the rebound. And the Warriors get the win, 133-95.
And that's exactly what the doctor ordered. A Warriors win, and one that they didn't have to work too hard for. As you just heard Tim Roy say, the final score in Phoenix. Warriors 133, Suns 95. The Warriors 47-32, and this means a lot in the Western Conference standings. We'll get into all of it here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday evening. Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game after the latest Warriors win. Again, a dominant one, and this was exactly the win that they had to have. Step number one is win the basketball game by any means necessary. If that's a triple overtime thriller, you got to do it by any means necessary. Win by any means. They got that. Second was win a game against a team in Phoenix who's without their best player in Kevin Durant. And who has not quite given up, but based on how they played, kind of felt like they'd given up on the season. Handle business. Don't make it come down to the final few minutes. The Warriors led big early. They got off to a 22-12 start. They led by 13 after one. They led by 26 at half. They led by 34 at one point in the third. They led by as many as 41. They win by 38. This was a dominant Warrior win, and this was the kind of way that you would like to see it happen. Steph didn't have to play the fourth quarter. Neither did Jimmy. Neither did Draymond. And now you gear up for a back-to-back because you've got the San Antonio Spurs at home tomorrow here at Chase Center as you continue your chase for a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. And today, the Warriors took a major step in that direction because what else happened around the Western Conference? Well, we did just have the final game of the day go final down in L.A. Warriors did not get helped from the San Antonio Spurs as the Clippers win versus the Spurs. Final score 122-117. 122-117 is the final in favor of the Clippers. So the Clippers, much like the Warriors, win and improve to 47-32. And now, here is all you need to know about the NBA standings in the Western Conference. First, I guess let me just tell you exactly what happened elsewhere around the West. So the Clippers won, as I mentioned. They beat the Spurs. The Warriors won, as we all know. They beat the Suns. The Thunder bounced back and beat the Lakers 136-120. That game was close, and then Luka Doncic got ejected for a second tech. He claimed he was screaming at a fan, looked like he was, said something explicit toward a fan. An official thought he was speaking to him, the official. The official then gave him a tech, the second tech he had gotten, and he's done for the game. That oddly helped the Thunder in there. 136-120 was the final because when that happened, it was a close game. Also winners in Charlotte were the Grizzlies. They cruised to a win, 124-100, very similar to the way the Warriors won today. And the big help for the Warriors was Milwaukee beating the Timberwolves in Milwaukee. The final score, 110-103. You think about that basketball game and you say, wow, nice win for Milwaukee. 110-103. It was close. It was probably close and competitive the whole way. No, you're wrong. The Timberwolves absolutely blew this one. They led by 24 points. They led 95-71 with 10 minutes left. Minnesota did. Milwaukee in the final 10 minutes closed on a 39-8 run to win 110-103. That 24-point blown lead is the fourth largest blown lead in Minnesota franchise history. And by the way, this all happened in the fourth quarter. Minnesota had gone 276 consecutive games when trailing by 20 or more in the fourth quarter without losing. And they lost this one. And what this Minnesota loss means for the Golden State Warriors, the Warriors can now lose one more time this season and still finish ahead of Minnesota. So if the Warriors lose just once more, and again, they have 3 games left, San Antonio at home, Portland on the road, and then the Clippers at home. If the Warriors lose one of those 3 games, they will still finish ahead of Minnesota, even if Minnesota wins out. Now, that's not quite enough to say 2-1 guarantees a top 6 seed. What 2-1 guarantees now after that Minnesota loss is the 7th seed at the very worst. Warriors go 2-1, and they should beat San Antonio. They should beat Portland. If the Warriors go 2-1 in their final 3, they will be the 7 seed at the very worst. So this postseason picture begins to look, it begins to come a little bit more in focus. It's still not totally in focus just yet. What is still true is if the Warriors win out, they won today. If you also win your final 3 games, you will be the 5 seed at worst. If Denver loses once, you will be the 4 seed. If the Lakers lose twice, you will be the 3 seed if the Warriors win out. If you lose just once, the lowest you could possibly go is 7, and it's still pretty darn likely that even if you do go 2-1 in your final 3, which you should do almost in your sleep against San Antonio and Portland, you're still, I think, very likely going to be a top 6 seed, and it all depends where these losses come for some of these other teams. But if you want to know what the Western Conference standings look like right now up to the second after the Clippers held off the Spurs in LA, here's what it looks like. The Lakers are the 3 seed at 48-31. They're a game ahead of this next group, which features the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies. The Lakers, again, 3rd seed at 48-31. Then you have that group of 4 at 47-32. Who wins that 4-way tiebreaker between the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies? It is the Clippers. So the Clippers currently are the 4 seed, believe it or not. Denver is the 5. The Warriors are the 6. Memphis is the 7, and Minnesota has fallen all the way to the 8 as a result of their blown 24-point fourth quarter lead in Milwaukee today. Minnesota is the 8. Memphis is the 7. The Warriors are the 6. Denver the 5. The Clippers the 4. The Lakers a game up in 3rd. That is how the tiebreaker plays itself out right now. The 4-way ties between the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies. Those 4 teams in a 4-team tiebreaker, it just goes to head-to-head matchups between the 4 teams tied. And between the 4 teams tied, it is the Clippers by far with the best record. Against those other 3 teams, they're 8-2 this year. Denver is 5-4. The Warriors are 4-6, and Memphis is 2-7. So it's a pretty clear hierarchy in terms of who wins that right now. There could be some shifting because there are still some head-to-head games left. But right now, that is the way that 4-way tiebreaker turns out. And there's a number of different ways that these tiebreakers could be determined because you don't know which teams are going to be tied at the end. Is it going to be certain 3 teams? Is it going to be certain 4 teams? Is it going to be all 5 of these teams? We will have to wait and see exactly how these tiebreakers plan out in terms of who is tied. But as of right now, if the 4-way tie is Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Grizzlies, the Clippers win that tie. Warriors finish 3rd in that 4-way tie, but because we're talking about a tie from 4 through 7, the Warriors, even by finishing 3rd in that 4-way tie, still would get a top 6 seed, and they would be the 6th seed in the Western Conference. Okay, that's a lot to take in. All you need to know is the Warriors held serve today. They dominate the Suns. They took advantage of Minnesota absolutely choking one away in Milwaukee, and they took a step towards a top 6 seed. It would be really difficult for the Warriors to not be a top 7 seed now. They would likely have to lose 2 of their 3. In fact, they would. And then they still could be a top 7 seed even if Minnesota were to lose 1 as well. So today, big progress for the Warriors. They got closer to their goal of being a top 6 seed, but because this thing is so nip and tuck, it is definitely not over. All right. Welcome in. It's Warriors Wrap Up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you. This was the dominant Warrior win from the jump. 133-95 is the final. The Warriors led by as many as 41. They win this game by 38. They take advantage again of that Minnesota loss in Milwaukee, and they're now the easiest way to think about it for Warriors and Minnesota, right? All these teams are fighting for seeds 4 through 8. You could even throw the Lakers in there, 3 through 8. Minnesota right now is a game behind the Warriors, and the Warriors have the tiebreaker. So essentially they're 2 games up, and there's only 3 games left. So Minnesota has to be 2 games better than the Warriors in the final 3. So Minnesota wins out, they go 3-1. They would need the Warriors to go 1-2 for them to pass them. Warriors just lose once, and they cannot finish below Minnesota, which means Minnesota feels like they're getting kind of close to being the 8th seed here in the West, but of course they do have tiebreakers versus some of these other teams. Just specifically when it comes to the Warriors, it will be difficult for Minnesota to finish ahead of the Warriors. They need the Warriors to lose twice for that to happen. Warriors up 2, essentially, with 3 to play. That is really difficult for a team to catch, especially when the Warriors have a couple of not cupcakes, but easier games on their schedule with San Antonio at home tomorrow and then Portland in Portland on Friday before you take on the Clippers back at home on Sunday on a matinee at 12:30 next Sunday to close out the regular season. Today was a big step for the Warriors, but again, you're not quite there just yet. I thought this was the dream game for the Warriors. You needed a win. But you would also like an easy win where you don't have to push your veterans super hard. Minutes played in this game today. Steph didn't even play 26. Draymond barely played over 20. Jimmy Butler didn't even break 20 minutes in this game. You got to play Guy Santos over 21 minutes. Trace Jackson-Davis, in the absence of Quentin Post, who's out with an illness, he played nearly 19 minutes today. You got a lot of minutes from Kevon Looney off the bench. Even Pat Spencer played the whole fourth quarter. You got to play the bench squad the entire fourth, which, considering the Warriors have a back-to-back tomorrow, and considering how exhausted that they are and how tired that they are, and I know that might get under some Warriors fans' skins, get on their nerves a little bit. You're paid millions of dollars to play this game. No reason for you to complain about exhaustion. I'll just tell you, this Warrior team is tired. They're exhausted. They've been on a 2-month-long sprint to get to this position, and by the way, their position is still not solidified just yet. This team is tired, very tired. So a game like this where you can win and kind of put it away after 2.5 quarters and then not have to play any of your 35-year-olds or 37-year-old meaningful minutes in the second half, that's important because, again, you have a game tomorrow and you absolutely have to win that game. You're likely still going to have to win in Portland. There's a scenario where Sunday versus the Clippers does not matter, but the Warriors are still on an all-out sprint, and they've been on an all-out sprint for 2 months now. They needed a game like this where you could just forget about it. Didn't need to play anybody of any real importance, at least in terms of veterans of any importance, major minutes in the second half, and you get to win this game going away. You get to enjoy a smooth, easy, short flight back to the Bay Area and get ready for the San Antonio Spurs, who are also on their own back-to-back. They were just in L.A. versus the Clippers. That game just went final about 15 minutes ago, and it was the Clippers coming out on top by 5 points. It wasn't really that close in the fourth quarter, but a back-to-back as well for the Spurs. So the Warriors not even in that big of a disadvantage against the Spurs tomorrow on that back-to-back. All right. 888-957-9570. A lot on the mind because of all these different permutations in the standings. Let's go out to the phones. Plenty of time for your calls, your questions, your text, your YouTube comments. I got my eyes on our YouTube chat right now. 888-957-9570 as well. I see you on the text line, the 650, the 510, the 707, 925. A bunch of you chiming in. Appreciate that. Also on our YouTube chat, I see you, Joseph and Pierce and Pluck and Mark and Zick and Chico. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Pierce as well. Empire. Fandeka, I apologize again if I'm mispronouncing these names, but I appreciate all you for tuning in on YouTube as well. Before I do go out to the phones, I wanted to remind you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app, and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. Out to the phones we go here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game. Up first is Skills in Vallejo. Skills, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Mark. Hopefully you were doing well as well. And before I get into the Warriors Suns, I want to just say prayers up real quick to Jalen Wells of the Memphis Grizzlies, who took that horrible fall tonight. If you haven't watched it, audience, brace yourself. It's not pretty, but he seems like he's going to be okay. As for the Suns and the Warriors, Phoenix, where's Eddie Johnson and Dan Marley and Amari Stoudemire when you need them? This win for the Warriors was about as, like you were saying, Mark, it went about as well as you could hope for, with the Warriors getting rest before back-to-back and all that. And I'm not going to get on the whole "it's just Phoenix" train because as disappointing as the Phoenix Suns have been this year, they still won close half the time. And Bradley Beal was pretty uninspired, and Devin Booker was out there just so he wouldn't get fined. But this team, I mean, the best plus minus I think they had was Monty Morris, who obviously was inspired by the firing of his old coach up in Denver, and that was -2. So the Warriors really had to work in the night. They're 47-32 now, and you get those 4 teams bunched up between the 3 and 6 spots. They're the ones actually playing the best right now because you got, Denver's a mess firing coaches. Memphis is a mess firing coaches. The Lakers got rammed by Oklahoma City tonight. With you mentioned Luka getting ejected and all that. So I just want to say for the Warriors, just keep the pedal down. There's a few games left. Got to win tomorrow night. They can control their own destiny. And one last point I want to make is that you can lose to any team at any time in this league. So whether or not you defeat a team in second place, like you lost to Houston over the weekend, but you beat the 3 other teams above you or tied with you, whatever they were before that. The Warriors are playing some good ball right now. I believe in them. I think they can do some damage once the playoffs start.
Yep, appreciate the call, Skills, and good call on the Jalen Wells shout out. If you did miss it in that Grizzlies Hornets game in Charlotte, he was going up for a fast break bucket, got undercut. It was a really rough sight. He landed kind of not like straight on his head or neck, but it was definitely like shoulders and above that took the brunt of how he landed. He was stretchered off. It looked like kind of like a classic head injury, the way that his body reacted in the moment. Really scary. He was stretchered off. The good news is the reports are that he's alert, has control and movement in all of his extremities. So great news there for Jalen Wells, the rookie who's really opened eyes on the race for like all rookie team this year. And he's also somewhat of a local product because he was a Sacramento area native and he began his collegiate career at Sonoma State before transferring to Washington State and finishing his collegiate career there. But best wishes to Jalen Wells and his family. Hope he's okay. He ultimately suffered a broken right wrist. And he might still have, maybe I'm speculating here, he might have also sustained a concussion, but officially a broken right wrist in a really, really, really scary moment, but it looks like he's okay, which is good news. So appreciate the shout out there, and we wish the best to Jalen and the entire Wells family. Grizzlies still won that game, but looks like they're going to be without a key piece in Jalen Wells for their postseason run. His season is more than likely over at this point. Skills is also right. I mean, I'm here saying San Antonio tomorrow should be a win, and Portland on Friday should be a win. Of course, they should be wins. But if the Warriors don't approach those games like they did tonight, those very easily could be losses. Those teams don't have a ton to play for. But at this stage as well, I mean, you've got dudes that are trying to fight for their careers in the NBA, and you never know who can come out and catch fire and put 40 up on you. I saw a couple of comments earlier today here on our text line. Also, I get them on Twitter sometimes as well. With Kevin Durant ruled out, so I saw this from a couple of different fans. All right, well, which random Phoenix Sun is going to score 40 tonight? Because that sometimes happens versus the Warriors, right? So you got to take all these teams seriously, because if you don't, you might end up on the wrong end of a really embarrassing loss, and that might be the reason you're the 7 or the 8 seed as opposed to being the 6, the 5, the 4, or hell, even the 3. Because believe it or not, the 3 seed is still possible. If the Lakers go 1-2 in their final 3, and the Warriors win out, and you get a needed loss from Denver, you'll be the 3 seed. If the Lakers go 1-2, Denver loses once, you go 3-0, Warriors are the 3 seed. That's a lot to have happen, but it's possible. The 4 seed is still pretty possible. You win out, Denver loses once, you're the 4 seed. You win out, at worst, you are the 5, because that means included in your winning out is a win over the Clippers, and that is how you jump the Clippers, because you'd have to be a game better than them, and you beating them head-to-head would be you becoming a game better than them, even if they win the rest of their games. All right, 888-957-9570. Impressive win for the Warriors today, 133-95. It is exactly what the doctor ordered. Get in, get out with the win, fly back home, gear up for the final 3 games of the regular season, and continue your push for the 6th seed. This was a majorly successful day for the Golden State Warriors, and this win also solidifies the Minnesota loss, because Minnesota could lose, and it's great. If you don't win, you don't take advantage of it. The Warriors won. They're now a full game up on Minnesota, plus the tiebreaker, essentially 2 games up with 3 to play. It is becoming really, really, really difficult for Minnesota to catch the Warriors in the regular season. All right, back out to the phones we go. Always time for your calls, your questions, your comments. 888-957-9570. Manny is in Houston. Manny, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up with Mark Randy. How you doing, Manny?
Hey, what's up, Granny? I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good win for the Warriors, man. What did you think?
It was an amazing win, man. So I just have a few takeaways and a question for you. So I'll be quick. But if you remember my comments from earlier today on YouTube, I asked for our defense to hold Book to under 25. So it was amazing to see that. I loved all the active hands on defense tonight. And I can appreciate the work that TJD has put in at the line during his time off the court. Seeing him go 5 for 7, that was really big for me. Now, granted, as great as our defense was, I mean, we held Phoenix, but would you consider it more part of the game plan to funnel the attack to Dre, or is it more that players are getting beat and Dre bails them out? What do you think?
Good question, Manny. And I want to talk about what you brought up with Devin Booker as well, and this Suns team as a whole. But I'll take your last part first here as I react to your call. I think the Warriors know they kind of have like they got the card, like they got the wild card in the back, right? They got Draymond Green. They know that he can erase a lot of issues. I don't think it's the Warriors actively saying, okay, we're just going to funnel everything to Draymond, because ideally Draymond doesn't have to take on that responsibility and that task and that workload night in and night out. But the Warriors know that, all right, we get beat off the dribble. Like, we got Draymond back there, and you can also even throw Jimmy in there. Jimmy isn't on Draymond's level in that regard, but he's a similar defender in that he's maybe not necessarily like this elite perimeter guy. He's going to keep everybody in front of him, but you throw him in there and he just not necessarily makes other individual defenders better, but he just makes the entire unit better because he can defend like multiple areas on the court at once. Draymond is the best at like stopping a driver, not his man, like helping off of his man to cut off a driver, and then as that ball handler who gets cut off by Draymond passes to Draymond's original man, Draymond, he has this innate ability to like time his cut back to his original man as the pass is going, and like before the pass even gets back to his guy, he's already right there and bumping chest with him and fighting for every inch. Like Draymond is elite at that. So he and Jimmy is very similar. They make the entire defense work better. But what I will say, Manny, what the trade of Andrew Wiggins did was it took away the Warriors' best point of attack defender, and that's a phrase that we throw around so often here on Sports Talk Radio. Just think of it as a guy that is defending a perimeter ball handler, whether it's a guard or a wing who can, attack off the dribble and get into the paint. The Warriors lost their best point of attack, perimeter ball handler defender. The Warriors lost that. And Jimmy Butler's a good defender, but he's not what Wiggins was on the perimeter. And that's why Moses Moody has been valuable, because Moody has taken a step in that direction. I think we've seen similar things from Jonathan Kuminga defensively. I think he's done a better job staying in front of his guys. But there's no doubt the Warriors are, while they are better defensively after the trade, they are worse at the point of attack. They're allowing more drives. But as a unit, they are better. So to answer your question, Manny, I don't think the Warriors are actively funneling things to Draymond. I think it's more so just a result of the strength of this defense, or maybe more accurately, the weakness of the defense, which is staying in front of perimeter drivers, perimeter ball handlers that can attack the paint. That is, I think, comparatively a weakness for this Warriors defense. It just so happens you have maybe the greatest eraser behind you in Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler isn't bad at that either. So that stands out to me. I do think Moody has gotten a lot better in that regard in terms of keeping perimeter ball handlers in front. He's done really well at that. And that's why even when his shot isn't falling, he's staying on the floor. And I think I've seen a little bit of that from Kuminga as well the last handful of games. And that's something the Warriors really, really need. I've been saying it a lot as in terms of the Moody or Kuminga conversation, even the Podziemski conversation. You just have to find avenues to consistent minutes. Podziemski's found it of late with his shooting. I mean, he's been amazing. I want to talk about Podziemski. We'll do that when we come back from a quick break. Podziemski's been amazing. I mean, he's shooting like an elite shooter for multiple months now. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit. That's how he's staying on the floor. But he's also doing a lot of the small things and creating for others. And for his size, he's a great rebounder. Moody is staying on the floor because of his perimeter defense. And I think Jonathan Kuminga is taking steps in that direction as well as a defender. We could talk about Podziemski's or about Kuminga's game as well in this one. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't bad. I thought he showed some flashes of some really good things. We can talk about that when we come back as well. It's Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. The Warriors knock off the Suns. Final score 133-95. Denver was idle. The Lakers and the T-Wolves lost. The Warriors, Clippers, and Grizzlies won. The Warriors, as it stands this second, because this is going to change tomorrow, I guarantee you, as it stands this second, the Warriors are the 6th seed in the Western Conference. They have not yet clinched a top 6 seed, but they are inching closer to that. I'll tell you why coming up next. It's Warriors wrap up. Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game. More time for your calls, your texts, and your comments on YouTube. 888-957-9570 and youtube.com/957 The Game. Back with more next on 95.7 The Game.
Looking for lifelong financial guidance?
Welcome back. Mark Randy with you here on a Warriors wrap-up. And yeah, how about TJD getting some minutes and not just garbage time? He played in the first half as well because no Quentin Post. And the Warriors turned to, hey, TJD, come off the bench here. Give us some minutes. You had a couple of alley-oops from Steph in the first half. There was some, honestly, a handful of really nice dunks for the Warriors in this game. Those two TJD alley-oops. Moses Moody had himself a poster. He drove baseline from the right side and dunked with the right hand. Moses Moody, of the last couple of games, has some pretty impressive moments in terms of dunking the ball. We know what he did to Austin Reeves in LA last week. Ultimately got overturned from a defensive foul to an offensive foul, unfortunately, but still showing off that athleticism and put Reeves on a poster, which we have to delete from the archives because it was then changed to an offensive foul. But still, Moody's been aggressive going to the paint, which is good to see. And good to see TJD get some non-garbage time, normal rotation minutes. Now, I imagine he's going to go right back to essentially only playing garbage time once Quentin Post is back. And Quentin Post, nothing serious, just dealing with an illness. I would not be shocked if he plays tomorrow, but maybe not. But it's not as if he's out for an extended period of time or is there's a question on his availability for the postseason. But good to see him get that opportunity. I mean, you miss watching TJD play. He'll bring you some of those dunks every once in a while. And in fact, I can go through. Let me find this here. I think he hit a certain milestone with those two dunks today. Give me just a second as I find this officially. Entering the day, he was 2 dunks away from 100 on the season. Let's see. He now has become the first Warrior player to have 2 straight seasons with at least 100 dunks since 1997-1998, when play-by-play was officially recorded. So Trayce Jackson-Davis becomes the first Warrior since dunks were officially a tracked statistic to have consecutive 100 dunk seasons. That's honestly really hard to believe. First Warrior to have consecutive 100 dunk seasons since 97-98. So congrats to TJD on getting some run and taking advantage of it. A couple of alley-oops from Steph Curry. He scored 6 points. He played 12 full minutes in this one and helped the Warriors to a win, 133-95. I want to go back to something that our previous caller in our first segment, Manny, brought up. And he was talking about he thought the goal for the Warriors should be to limit Devin Booker to 25 or fewer points in this game. And without KD, if you do that, it's probably a guaranteed win, considering that the Suns don't have a lot else to do in this one. And actually, I think I'm looking at the wrong full box score here. Yeah, here it is. I said TJD only had a couple of points. He actually finished with 13 points. TJD did. I was looking at the first half box score, not the full box score. So 13 points for TJD, played 18 minutes and 41 seconds. He was really good in this game. And Manny was right. I mean, you limit Devin Booker, you're going to win this game almost by default because there's not enough bucket makers on this Suns team other than Devin Booker, especially without Kevin Durant out, to keep them on pace with the Warriors. And their defense has really, really struggled of late. You figure you're going to score like 110, 115 or more. Going to be hard for the Suns to keep up if Devin Booker doesn't have himself a game. Now, to Devin Booker's credit, he was great in the first half. He scored 21 points in the first half, went 7 for 12 from the field. But the rest of his team in the first half only had 22 points. Devin had 21. The rest of the Suns had 22. Devin was 7 for 12 from the field in the first half. The rest of the Suns were 8 for 24 from the field in the first half. Now, unfortunately for Devin, he didn't score at all in the second half. He finished the game with those same 21 points, and he was 0 for 5 from the field in the second half. But to be honest, the game was essentially over, so this isn't really a knock on Devin Booker. I think the larger point is, man, has this Suns team just completely and totally given up? That was an embarrassing performance by the Phoenix Suns today, and Warriors took advantage, and give the Warriors full credit. that was not a professional basketball team they played today. And they were not officially out of the postseason. They're still not officially out, believe it or not. The Phoenix Suns, for Phoenix to sneak into the play-in, entering the day they needed to win out and have Dallas go 1-2. Now you can go 3-1 in the Final Four, 3-0 in your Final Three. Dallas would have to go 0-3. That's the only chance that Phoenix has left. So it wasn't over, and they came out with that energy, that effort, that lack of focus. They had no interest in playing a basketball game. They seem already like 1 foot on a plane to Cabo or wherever they're going to go for a vacation over the summer. They're going to fire Coach Budenholzer. That's like already like a done deal. Like I don't have sources inside of Phoenix, but like you can just tell that's going to happen. Coach Bud is out. They're going to get to a point where they're probably going to field offers again for Kevin Durant. I would not be surprised if he was traded this offseason. I would not be surprised if we hear rumors that they're listening to offers for Devin Booker. Devin Booker is Mr. Phoenix Sun himself, so I wouldn't necessarily bet on that to happen. There will be teams calling the Phoenix Suns for Devin Booker. That is how much of a dumpster fire the Phoenix Suns are right now. They are going nowhere, and they're going nowhere fast. And tonight was just plain embarrassing. But hey, you're the Warriors. You'll take it. You will take it. Warriors take advantage, and they win this game again by a final score of 133-95. You just got a bunch of players who are, again, not interested in playing good basketball right now in Phoenix, and it is odd considering, I mean, right now it makes sense considering you're essentially out of any postseason contention. Kevin Durant is out. Like, okay, what are you going to do? I get it. But this has been going on all season. They have been a mess all season long. A lot of people like to poke fun at what the Dallas Mavericks did at the trade deadline this year, trading away Luka Doncic. And that's a mistake by itself. We know that. The Phoenix Suns might have had a worse trade deadline. They openly were trying to trade for Jimmy Butler. Everyone knows all of their business, though, because the only reason it didn't happen was because they were stupid enough to take on a Bradley Beal contract that features a no-trade clause. There are only two players in the NBA with no trade clauses. It's LeBron James and Bradley Beal. One of those does not match the other. Bradley Beal, in his heyday, a hell of a basketball player. Was he ever a superstar? No. Was he ever a top 10 player in the league? No. Was he an all-star? Yeah. On a really bad team, did he put up points? Yeah. Has he ever proven to be a winning player? And has he ever proven to be worth that money? And has he ever proven to be worth a no-trade clause? Oh, hell no. Not even close. So they're stuck with that contract. That's the only reason that Jimmy Butler is not a Phoenix Sun. They openly shop Kevin Durant. They get to a point where they agree in principle to a deal with these Warriors to send KD to Golden State, only for KD to say, no, don't do that. I don't want that to happen. And then they welcome him back after the trade deadline and say, oh, sorry, this is awkward. Like, Phoenix has been a dumpster fire for a while now, and they might just hit the eject button this offseason and say, all right, we're going to reset, see if we can recoup some draft picks. Because, by the way, what it took for them to get Bradley Beal, what it took for them to get Kevin Durant especially, they have very little future assets in terms of draft picks. They are in a world of hurt right now, and there's not an easy way out of it. Phoenix is in a really, really, really bad situation. You did not need tonight to confirm it, but tonight did confirm it. They are in a really bad spot, the Phoenix Suns. So anyway, that is my Phoenix Suns rant. That will be my last Phoenix Suns rant for the year because the Warriors no longer have to play the Phoenix Suns the rest of the season. Really quick, though, from the 408 on the text line, and there's a couple of good questions from a couple of different 408 numbers, actually. The 408, one of the 408s, says, how is Coach Bud, that's Coach Budenholzer for the Suns, how is he still employed but Taylor Jenkins and Mike Malone got fired? It's a very good question, 408. I don't really know what's gotten into these teams. Maybe the Luka Doncic trade just like shifted everybody's brain chemistry and made them more willing to make these head-scratching moves There's got to be something more going on behind the scenes in these two places. My personal opinion is Mike Malone probably got a little too into it, a little too animated, said a couple, things, too many things to ownership in Denver. I think Denver ownership is absolutely gutless because they have the best player in the world. They're 2 years removed from winning a championship, and they are scared to spend the necessary money to build another title team. Denver's probably going to lose in the first round of the postseason. Hell, even if they get there, they might be a play-in team. Very likely could be a play-in team. And if they're that, they might not even make the postseason. Denver has issues too. And I think Mike Malone was probably fired because of conversations, maybe animated conversations that he had with the front office. Who knows? That's just me speculating. That's my read on the situation. They also parted ways with their general manager. They are clearing house. Taylor Jenkins kind of confuses me too. I know there was some in-team fighting going on there. Santi Aldama and Desmond Bain got into it recently. There might be something a little more behind the scenes that we don't know about there. But to the 408 question about Coach Budenholzer, he will be fired very quickly after Sunday's game goes final for the Phoenix Suns. He's no longer going to be the Phoenix Suns head coach. I can absolutely guarantee you that. One other question from a different 408 asks me, while every game is a big one at this point, do you put much stock considering the Suns are putrid? Good question, 408. I don't think anyone is looking at this game, this dominant Warrior win. Again, the final score 133-95 over the Suns. I don't think anyone's looking at this Warrior win as proof that the Warriors are a team that can compete in the West, right? No one is thinking of this that way. So to answer your question, 408, no, I'm not reacting to this game as in the Warriors prove to me that they can win a playoff series, but this is just a win you absolutely had to have, and this is the best way you could have possibly gotten that win. So this one doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean anything beyond you now have won your 47th game, and you take a step towards being a top 6 seed in the West. You had to win it. You won it. You also won it while resting Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond for the majority of the second half and the entire fourth quarter. That is one check. That is 2 checks, and you move right along. You hop on a plane. You come back to the Bay Area, and you take on San Antonio tomorrow. That's all you see here. And there's a reason why I'm not talking too much about the X's and O's and the ins and outs and what happened in this basketball game today. Because what actually happened on the floor really doesn't mean all that much for the future of this Warriors team. A win is a win, and we move on. And that's what the Warriors did today. Really quickly, though, about something we did see on the floor. How about Brandon Podziemski? And we're going to hear from Steve Kerr coming up in just a little bit. All of his post-game comments. We'll hear from him shortly. Brandon Podziemski. His hot stretch continues. Podziemski tonight, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, had a steal, did commit a couple of turnovers, but 7 for 12 from the field, 4 for 6 from downtown. It's Podziemski's 4th straight game with 19 or more points and 4 or more made three-pointers. In his last 6 games, he now has 5 games with 19 or more points and 4 or more three-pointers. How about this? Brandon Podziemski, in his last 10 games before tonight, and you can add in tonight's 22 points, in his previous 10 games, 18.3 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game. In his last 30 games before tonight, and again, add in his 22 points tonight, but in his previous 30, 15 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game. But what's even more impressive is what Podziemski is doing shooting the basketball. So 4 for 6 from downtown tonight. In Podziemski's last 11 games, his last 11, not a big sample size, but this is more than just a couple of games. This is more than just a 3-game heater. In Podziemski's last 11 games, 42 for 81 from downtown. 42 for 81 over his last 11. That is 52% from downtown. Brandon Podziemski, 52% from downtown in his last 11 games. How about his last 31 games? Podziemski is 79 for 189 from deep. That is nearly 42% from downtown. We are talking about so much more than just a hot stretch. We're talking about a gigantic sample size that is approaching nearly half a season worth of a sample size where Podziemski is shooting 41.8% from downtown. He's approaching 42% from deep on the year, or during that stretch. That is like elite three-point shooter numbers. So my question to all you out there, all you Warrior fans, you can let me know, 888-957-9570, both on our on the text line. You can give us a call. You can let me know on YouTube, youtube.com/957thegame. At what point do we just accept that Brandon Podziemski is a good three-point shooter? I mean, almost 42% for 31 games. You don't just luck into that. I'm ready to say it. Podziemski is just a darn good three-point shooter. At what point does the rest of the world accept that? Because Podziemski is turning into the Warriors' third best scorer. He's turning into their second best shooter, and he is becoming a piece that you're going to have to count on to score you like 13, 14 points per game come the postseason. And the way that he's shooting right now, you feel pretty confident that he can do that. Now, there still has been a little bit of a split in terms of home versus road shooting for Podziemski, but the last road trip and tonight in Phoenix, a lot better shooting the basketball on the road. He had that great shooting performance in San Antonio. He was really good from downtown today. He is beginning to shift those numbers, home and road splits. He's been really good that way as well. So how long does it take for us to just accept that Podziemski is a really good three-point shooter? Because he's been that way for multiple months now. Since he returned from that abdominal injury, if you remember that he suffered just before the new year, it cost him, I think it was 12 games. He's come back. Since then, he shot nearly 42% from deep, and that is a 31-game sample size. It's impressive. It is impressive, and he's a big reason why the Warriors have performed really well in terms of wins and losses of late, because he's been hitting a lot of shots. They won 5 in a row. They lost on Sunday, and then they won again tonight. So they're 6-1 in their last 7 games. Podziemski has been a big part of nearly every single one of those wins. He's becoming a really, really important piece to this Warrior team. All right, 888-957-9570. Let's hear from Coach Kerr. Warriors head coach Steve Kerr here on 95.7 The Game, addressing the media post-game in Phoenix. Here is his post-game comments after this Warrior win. Final score 133-95. Here's the Warriors head coach.
I loved how Draymond and Steph and Jimmy, our vets, really established the tone. Even before the game started at shoot-around, they were locked in, and it showed right from the outset.
How much of a stress reliever is a night like tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great night for us with the back-to-back to keep everybody under 25 minutes or so. I guess Steph was almost at 26, but and then to get a lot of minutes for guys off the bench. I mean, it's always important, to keep the spirits up when you're one of the guys who doesn't play a whole lot. Really happy for Trace, with Quentin out. We had him in the rotation from the beginning of the game, and he really responded and played well, made some big plays for us out there. And he's kept such a great attitude and worked so hard during this time, the last couple of months, and showed who he is.
Was that an easy decision to bring him back into the rotation tonight, post out?
Yeah, with Quentin out, made perfect sense to reward Trace. We needed minutes at the 5 anyway. And like I said, I thought he looked really good.
Coach, you guys have the 3rd best defensive rating in the NBA since the All-Star break tonight. Only 61 points for the Suns through 3 quarters. I'm just curious, in your opinion, what makes you guys so special on that end of the floor?
It starts with Draymond Green. The first 7 minutes of the game were an absolute defensive clinic. I was just blown away watching all the nuance to what he was doing, helping everywhere, taking away angles. showing out on pick and rolls. We were switching some, but he was kind of mixing and matching. And the guy's a one-man wrecking crew. He really is. Jimmy has come in and fortified our defense. He's also brilliant at that end of the floor, and I think Draymond and Jimmy really work well together. And it's been fun to watch them, get more and more comfortable. As Jimmy racks up the games here.
Jimmy plays a lot of power forward for you guys. I was curious, is that something, does he really seem to enjoy the physicality of playing down low and having to take on that challenge? Jimmy's really strong. He is strong as an ox. And the other night we had him on Zach Edey in Memphis. And you can put him on anybody, really. He's an amazing player.
Brandon's three-level scoring, what kind of dynamic does that open up for you guys?
It's changed everything, just the last month or so, knocking down the threes, feeling so confident back there. But the way he can get to the rim, uses Euro step, the way he runs through the catch against closeouts and breaks the defense down and either scores or finds somebody else for an open shot. Brandon is generating a ton of offense for us.
Do you feel like he's taking a leap? Or I guess how sustainable is that?
I do. Yeah, he's definitely taken a leap the last month, and it's really coincided with Jimmy's arrival. The two of them have this great connection. Brandon solidified his spot as a starter, and I've always felt when you can stack together a lot of high IQ players, the game becomes easier for everyone, and that's what I'm seeing right now between Jimmy, BP. Draymond, Steph. It's really fun to watch them all click.
All right, there's Coach Kerr, and kind of fitting the last couple of questions were about Brandon Podziemski, because that's what I was just talking about. Podziemski tonight, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, had a steal, a couple of turnovers, which is going to happen. 7 for 12 from the field, 4 for 6 from downtown. And I just got this text that came in a couple of minutes ago, right as I went to the Steve Kerr postgame presser. From the 510, and appreciate you tuning in. Is Podziemski the new Splash Brother? Interesting thought, because I had this thought when I was watching Podziemski play today, and once I saw a shot of Podziemski and Steph sitting on the bench together in the fourth quarter. Don't come at me, Dub Nation. I'm not calling Podziemski this guy. I'm just telling you of late, the way Podziemski has been scoring. The Steph-Podziemski combo offensively has kind of felt and looked a little bit like Steph and Klay. It has. Again, I'm not calling Podziemski Klay Thompson, but part of what made the Warriors was you had 2 elite three-point shooters. And I hate to break it to you, Pods, you're never going to be the shooter that Klay was. I'm not saying you are. But the way that he's been shooting right now, it has felt the scoring punch from your starting 1 and 2 guards has been a little reminiscent of Steph and Klay. I'm not calling Pods a Splash Brother. I am definitely not comparing Pods to Klay. Just the scoring punch of late has given the Warriors that 1-2 punch from their 2 starting guards that made them so elite for all those years. It's something to keep in mind. It is something to keep in mind. When you get that kind of shooting from your guards, it opens up so much other stuff. So that is really, really big. And Steve Kerr said it himself. I'll play it for you again in a sec. But he said, Pod's shooting, what has it meant to you? He said, quote, it has changed everything. Here's Steve Kerr again on Podziemski scoring.
It's changed everything, just the last month or so, knocking down the threes, feeling so confident back there. But the way he can get to the rim, uses Euro step, the way he runs through the catch against closeouts and breaks the defense down and either scores or finds somebody else for an open shot. Brandon is generating a ton of offense for us.
Yeah, he is. And he also has this, the slowdown, the decel, as you hear Fitz referenced it on the NBC Sports Bay Area broadcasts. He had this one moment in a fast break where he's got 2 sons like on his hip, and he goes up with the left hand. He was on the left side of the rim, and he goes up and stops as he's going up for the layup, doesn't actually go up for the layup, and both the Suns guys just fly by him, and then he has an easy lay-in with nobody around him. And on his way back up the floor, you know how sometimes guys will do the Euro step? They'll score off a Euro, and then they'll celebrate by doing like a phantom Euro up the court. Pods did that, but with his decel up the court. So he turned around, started running up the court, got to like the free throw line, and then just paused and stood there to celebrate his deceleration move. He's feeling good about himself. He is feeling good about himself. There's no doubt. But the 510 chiming in, it's no more Splash Bros. Clay is gone. Come up with something new, period. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not saying they're the new Splash Brothers, but Pods has been shooting the ball really, really well of late, and it's a big reason why the Warriors have won 6 of their last 7, and why they have a really good opportunity to be a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. And hey, the 3 is still possible. Believe it or not, the 3 is possible. Lakers need to lose twice in their final 3. The Warriors need to win out. I'll go through the schedules before we get on out of here tonight. But let's go back out to the phone lines because Roque is in Alameda. Roque, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap Up. How you doing?
Yes, hi. Good evening. Thank you for taking my call. Hey, I just want to bring this up earlier about Draymond Green, against Houston, and I'm glad this happens earlier, not in a playoff. Maybe it'll be a wake-up call in the Warriors organization. The players, give him a little prep talk, or maybe he might even say, "Oh shoot, I got to stop this." They could have won that game. We only lost by 10. He didn't play for one quarter. So I'm glad this happened earlier, not on the playoff. So that's one thing. And also, I realized we've been shooting free throws pretty good lately. I'm not gonna bash on Wiggins. Wiggins is kind of iffy. And then you got Looney in there. He's not being on the free throw line lately. Those are the 2 free throw was not that accurate. And Jimmy Butler, he's been in the free throw. He's been picking it up. So and also I'll be honest with you, Kuminga, he's kind of iffy, but now he's picking it up. So our free throws kind of rise up there, okay, and I like that. I mean, tonight's game, I mean, it's easy cake tonight. I'm not even gonna talk about that tonight. It's just how we improve on the rest of the game. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, appreciate it, Roque. On Draymond, and you were talking about technicals. I mean, the Houston game was just the mess. I thought that the Rockets came into that game with a game plan of trying to get under the Warriors' skin, and they did it successfully. In a game where Steph can't get shots off, and the ones that he's getting off aren't falling, and you don't have a super aggressive offensive game from Jimmy Butler, Draymond just has to find a way to stay on the floor, and he didn't. And now that flagrant foul call, we can argue about that. We can be upset about it. It is what it is. Draymond still had picked up 4 fouls like a minute in to the third quarter, and he was getting in the face of Şengün. I thought it was by far the worst we've seen Draymond emotionally all season. He's been really good at it this year. You got to give him credit for that. But the Houston game was bad. I think to this point, you got to just accept that it's going to happen at some point. But you also have to understand that, he's been really good at it this year, and I think he deserves a little bit of credit for how he has handled his emotions for the vast, vast, vast majority of this season. And you hope that it continues because the Warriors are going to need that come the postseason. They're going to need Draymond to play as many minutes as possible because this team is of course still so much better with Draymond. The other point that Roque brought up was the free throws, and I can just read these numbers off to you. Today at the free throw line, the Warriors were 28 for 34. They attempted 19 more free throws than the Suns did. They made 15 more. So you're plus 15 on the free throw line. Now the Warriors could have won this game without shooting any free throws. That's how good they were. But that's a data point in a larger point in terms of how Jimmy Butler has turned this team around. before Jimmy Butler, in the 51 games before Jimmy Butler became a Warrior, the Warriors shot 20.4 free throws per game. In the 27 games since, and this is leading up to today's game, in the 27 games since, the Warriors have attempted 24.4 free throws per game. That's a jump of 4 free throws per game. That's from the 27th most free throws attempted per game to the 3rd most free throws attempted per game. How about free throw percentage? And this is really the mind-boggling one. Pre-Jimmy Butler, the Warriors were 30th in the NBA. 30th in the league. 72% from the free throw line. 30th in the league. That is dead last. They were the worst free throw shooting team percentage-wise in the NBA. And they also did it, again, as I just talked about, on the 27th fewest free throw attempts. They went from the 30th, the worst free throw shooting team percentage-wise in the league, to now 82.4% since, second best in the NBA. Not only has Jimmy turned them from a team that did not shoot free throws to one that shoots more than almost everybody, but he turned them into a team that could not make free throws at any kind of good clip into the second best free throw shooting team in the NBA. Jimmy gets a ton of the credit for that. Now, this is also others making their free throws more often, but it's hard to look past the fact that Jimmy has just turned this around. The second that he stepped foot on this team, the Warriors became an elite free throw shooting team. There's no doubt that it is not a coincidence. I talked a little bit about Podziemski. I want to play a couple of Brandon Podziemski cuts for you here as well before we get on out of here tonight. Brandon Podziemski, post-game, asked about Jimmy Butler's passing. And this is kind of a theme of some of the post-game sound today. I'll play a cut from Steph Curry on TNT as well. But Brandon Podziemski asked about Jimmy Butler's passing. Butler today didn't have to do all that much. He scored 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. So tonight might not have been the best example of his passing, but here is Podziemski talking about that part of Jimmy Butler's game.
I mean, I think everybody knows Jimmy as playoff Jimmy, the guy that scores 50 in the finals, all that type of stuff. But I think so far, sometimes he almost passes to a fault. And we want Jimmy to be ultra aggressive. I talked to Steph before the game when tip-off started. We just tried to get Jimmy the ball as much as we could to start the game to try to get him in a rhythm. And even though he only shot 4 shots tonight, he made the right play over and over again. But I know when playoffs roll around and it's time, Jimmy will be there.
That's interesting. I mean, Podziemski said sometimes he, overpasses to a fault. I tell you what, I think I got a good sense of these things. That cut from Brandon Podziemski, you're going to hear it a lot tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game, because I know a lot of the talk today and yesterday do the Warriors need Jimmy to be more aggressive offensively? Well, you got a teammate there saying sometimes he might be a little too eager to pass. He might overpass to a fault. So I would imagine we're gonna hear a little bit of that tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game. Of course, the morning roast with the 2 Joes, Spadoni and Shasky 6 to 10, Steiny and Goo 10 to 2, Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6. That all leads up to Warriors and Spurs from Chase Center tomorrow. Tip-off is at 7, which means our pregame coverage begins at 6 here on 95.7 The Game. I told you Steph also talked about Jimmy Butler. Here is Curry post-game via TNT on the TNT walk-off on the TV broadcast, talking about what Jimmy Butler brings to the team.
Just another guy that just brings presence. Like, you have to watch the game to understand what he does. Like, I know he's had his moments and, carrying teams to the finals and all that, but a game like tonight, the stat sheet won't say what he means. It's just his presence, his ability to control the tempo offensively, be another Swiss Army knife in the defensive end, and he's made everybody else's job a little bit easier. So we got to be able to carry that influence and just keep playing at a high level. Yeah,
I mean that's always been the case. Jimmy Butler has a lot of Draymond in him in the sense that his impact goes so far beyond what you see on the stat sheet. And that has always been true of Draymond Green. It's always been true of Jimmy Butler. I also think the Jimmy Butler conversation is an interesting one because there's so many Warrior fans out there that expect when the postseason rolls around that we're going to see, playoff Jimmy, right? And the way that we all think of playoff Jimmy is what we've seen from him in the playoffs recently. And recently, Jimmy Butler in the playoffs has been this otherworldly player where he just wills a less talented Miami Heat roster to series wins over teams like the Boston Celtics, right? Remember the year after the Warriors beat the Celtics in the finals, the 2022 finals, Warriors over Celtics in 6. The next year, the Celtics were the odds-on favorite to go back to the finals via the Eastern Conference. And I'd have to go back and check. They might have been the odds-on favorite to win it all at the beginning of the season, or maybe even going into the playoffs. Incredibly talented team. Maybe not quite as talented as they are now, but incredibly talented team in 2023. And Jimmy Butler, not single-handedly, that takes away from Bam and from, Max Strus, who had a good postseason series, and a couple of others, but almost single-handedly won that series versus the ultra-talented Boston Celtics. Like, that's how we remember playoff Jimmy, scoring 40 points, had a 50-point performance in the postseason, triple doubles, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, right? And hitting big shot after big shot. That's what we think of when we hear playoff Jimmy, right? Playoff Jimmy isn't like this ultra crazy scorer. Playoff Jimmy is just Jimmy, like, supersized. And what I mean by that is what Jimmy's mindset is always, I am going to do what I think is best for the team. I am going to do what I deem necessary for my team to win basketball games. And when Jimmy is on Miami and his second best player is Bam Adebayo and his third best player is Max Strus, you know what is needed from Jimmy in order for Miami to win? What is needed is Jimmy to score 40 points because there's no one else on Miami to do that. So Jimmy says, all right, you know what? How am I going to beat Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, a couple of years ago, Derek White, and this Celtics team? How the hell am I going to do that? Jimmy says, all right, I'll score 40 tonight. That's what I need to do to win, so I'm going to do that. Jimmy looks at this Warriors situation as, all right, what do I need to do to win this basketball game? I need to create shots for Steph. I need to create shots for Podziemski. I need to get Kuminga cutting to the hoop, get him the ball in the right spot. I need to pass to an open Quentin Post for a 3. So the expectations for Jimmy to be this crazy scorer, I think, are far-fetched because playoff Jimmy isn't by default a crazy scorer. Playoff Jimmy is, I am just going to do whatever the team needs from me. And this Warrior team is entirely different than that Heat team. Now, you could argue, maybe, Jimmy, you need to reevaluate sometimes what is needed from you in order to win. Because I think Houston on Sunday, the team could have used a little bit more offense, scoring from you specifically. But Jimmy, it's not like Jimmy changes his mindset going into the playoffs. It's just more heightened because it's a postseason game. And I think there is such thing as playoff Jimmy. I think it's hard to come out with that same intensity for 82 games over the course of a regular season, which at times gets pretty monotonous. But the playoff Jimmy that I'm expecting isn't like a 30-point per game score. The playoff Jimmy that I'm expecting is what he's doing now, just like better, which is, maybe instead of scoring 17 points per game, he's scoring 20 points per game. Instead of dishing out 6 rebounds or 6 assists per game, he's dishing out 8 assists per game. Like, it's what is being asked of him or what he feels is needed from him, needed of him with this Warrior team is entirely different than what was needed of him on that Heat team. And I think that's the easiest way to describe it. That's how I view playoff Jimmy. It's not as if Jimmy is going to say, all right, Steph, I got to take a back seat. I'll get us 35. You can be the number 2 scorer. Like, I got this, Steph. Give me the ball. I'll go one-on-one. You hang out in the corner. I'm going to go get this. Because that's what happened at times in Miami. That's not what is going to happen in the playoffs here. And by the way, playoffs not even officially guaranteed for the Warriors yet either. Okay. 888-957-9570. Let's get to really quick here. I'm going to go through the standings and some of the different things you got to keep an eye on. But first, let's get to our Crashing the Board segment, which is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. Crashing the boards tonight for the Golden State Warriors. How about, this is the tough one. We got 2 Warriors with 9 rebounds each. One of them is Steph Curry. One of them is Guy Santos. I want to give it to both of them. I'll just give it to both of them. I'll break my own rule. I'll give it to both. Steph Curry deserves it because he's one of the shortest guys on the floor, and he got 9 boards tonight, tied for the team lead. Way to go, Steph. But also Guy Santos and his energy. How about Guy Santos? 9 boards. 4 of them were offensive rebounds. He had 1 possession in the first half where he got 2 offensive rebounds based just on pure heart and hustle alone, and it led to a Warrior bucket. Great play by Guy Santos. That's why Steve Kerr loves Guy Santos. That exact moment. 2 offensive rebounds on consecutive missed shots on the same total possession. Guy Santos was good, had 9 total rebounds, 2 offensive boards on that single possession, 4 total offensive rebounds, 5 on the defensive end, 9 total boards. He did that in only 21 minutes. That's a pretty good pace on the glass for Guy Santos. 9 boards for Guy, 9 boards for Steph. They both get our Crashing the Boards honor, which is brought to you by Chilton Auto Body, the Bay Area leader in collision repair. Thanks, as always, to Chilton. Okay, so the Warriors win today, 133-95. That is one important score from around the association. The others that matter to the Warriors. OKC beat the Lakers 136-120. Milwaukee came back and beat Minnesota 110-103. If you do not know how this game went, I'll tell you because it was crazy. Minnesota led 95-71 with 10 minutes left. 95-71, a 24-point lead with 10 minutes left. Then Milwaukee closed on a 39-8 run, and Milwaukee won 110-103. Historically bad loss for Minnesota. The 24-point blown lead is the 4th largest blown lead in franchise history, and that'll happen in the 4th quarter. I would venture to guess some of the other largest blown leads in Minnesota franchise history maybe happened when the lead was at the largest, like early in the 3rd quarter, as opposed to in the 4th quarter. And also, Minnesota prior to tonight, Milwaukee prior to tonight had lost 276 consecutive games when trailing by 20 or more in the 4th, until tonight when they came back from down 24 in the 4th and won. So again, Lakers lose in OKC. The Clippers beat San Antonio. Milwaukee beats Minnesota. And Memphis beats Charlotte. Add on to that, the Warriors win over the Suns 133-95. And the Western Conference standings now look like this. The 3 seed, the Los Angeles Lakers at 48-31. Then you've got 4 teams, 1 game behind them at 47-32. And that 4-way tiebreaker plays out like this. Clippers win the tiebreaker. They're the 4 seed. Nuggets finish 2nd in the tiebreaker. They're the 5 seed. Warriors finish 3rd in the tiebreaker. They're the 6 seed. Minnesota finishes 4th and last in the tiebreaker. They're the 7 seed. Minnesota is a game behind that group. They are the 8 seed at 46-33. So what does this mean for the Warriors now? 3 games left. San Antonio tomorrow. Portland on Friday in Portland. Then back home when you've got the Clippers on Sunday on a Sunday matinee to close out the regular season. If the Warriors, and really quick, before I do that, let me remind you, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. Warriors, San Antonio at home tomorrow, Portland in Portland on Friday, home to the Clippers on Sunday. If the Warriors win out, if they go 3-0, and I would imagine they will be favored in all 3, they'll be big favorites tomorrow. They'll be big favorites in Portland. They'll probably be narrow favorites versus the Clippers. If they win out, they are the 5 seed at worst. And if Denver loses once, they would be the 4 seed. If Denver loses once and the Lakers lose twice, the Warriors would be the 3 seed, believe it or not. And the Lakers have Dallas in Dallas tomorrow. Luka's return to Dallas. Houston on Friday. Portland on Sunday. I think it's unlikely the Lakers lose 2 of those 3. I think the 3 seed is a little too rich for the Warriors at this point. Houston has, by the way, officially locked up the 2nd seed because the Lakers lost today. So Houston, when they take on the Lakers, will have nothing to play for. That is likely a Laker win. In Portland on Sunday, also likely a Laker win. If those are both Laker wins, then what happens tomorrow in Dallas does not matter. Dallas also is essentially locked into the 10. One more Dallas win, one more Phoenix loss, and they are the 10. That's going to happen at some point. So Dallas, of course, will have plenty to play for. And with Luka in town, it's going to be a very raucous environment, I would imagine. It's going to be a fun game. The 3 seed is probably not going to happen for the Warriors. But again, the 4 seed can. If the Warriors win out, the Warriors go 3-0, and Denver loses once, the Warriors would be the 4 seed. Denver has Sacramento tomorrow, Memphis Friday, and the Rockets Sunday. Sacramento tomorrow, Memphis Friday, and the Rockets Sunday. The Rockets will have nothing to play for. They have nothing to play for anymore. Houston, though, might be that young, energetic team that doesn't really ever punt on a game. We will see. They'll have nothing to play for. Sacramento has officially locked up a play-in spot. It's still TBD if they will be the 9 or the 10, and you want the 9 to get home court in that play-in game, the 9v10 game. So Sacramento will be playing hard tomorrow. That's not going to be an easy game for the Nuggets, who are coming off of a losing streak and coming off of firing their head coach. So we'll see how that game plays out tomorrow. Memphis will have plenty to play for on Friday as well as they try to avoid the play-in. So Memphis will be playing hard on Friday. There is definitely a possibility that the Denver Nuggets lose one of their remaining 3 games. If that happens and the Warriors win all 3 of theirs, the Warriors will be the 4 seed in the Western Conference. Okay, so those are the 2 teams ahead of the Warriors, plus the Clippers, who are tied with the Warriors at 47-32. Then you got the Grizzlies also at 47-32, and the T-Wolves at 46-43. The schedules for those teams. Minnesota, they are in Memphis on Thursday. So those teams do not play tomorrow. Those teams' next games are both Thursday. Memphis hosting Minnesota tomorrow. Then Minnesota has Brooklyn on Friday, Utah on Sunday. Meanwhile, Memphis, again, Minnesota tomorrow, on Thursday. Then in Denver on Friday and home to Dallas on Sunday. Dallas may have something to play for, but probably not at that point. But Denver has something to play for, and Minnesota has something to play for, and that's where all these head-to-head games come in for the Warriors. Because Minnesota lost today, if I'm the Warriors, I'm rooting for Minnesota to beat Memphis. Because Minnesota catching the Warriors seems unlikely. They have to be 2 games better than the Warriors over their final 3 games in order to finish above the Warriors. Warriors are betting that they go at worst 2-1 on this stretch, which means even if Minnesota wins out, the Warriors finish ahead of Minnesota. So I think Warrior fans should root for should root for Minnesota to beat Memphis on Thursday, so you can tack on another loss to Memphis, and that would just about wrap up a top 6 seed for the Warriors. Bottom line, though, go 3-0. You're the 5, maybe the 4. Go 2-1. You'll have to hope that things play out in your favor, although even at 2-1, there's still a pretty good chance you're going to be a top 6 seed. And 2-1, it is also official, you'll be at worst the 7. 2-1 record, you cannot be the 8, which means even if you are a play-in team, you are going to have a home game in that play-in. Warriors want to avoid that entirely, and they can avoid that with a 3-0 stretch, but even 2-1 at worst, you're the 7, and you are hosting a play-in game, but still 2-1. I think more than likely that would be enough to get you the 6 seed, depending on how some of these other games turn out, and especially how these head-to-head games go. Because, again, Denver also plays Memphis. If it gets down to it where you're not yet locked into the top 6, you would root for Denver to beat Memphis, which means you probably can't climb past Denver, but it knocks Memphis down a peg, and as a result, you are more likely to be a top 6 seed. So it depends how all these things play out, and there's so many still possible permutations. But today was a step in the right direction for the Warriors. There's no doubt about it. Okay, before I get out of here, let me just really quick one more time read you through what is happening tomorrow around the West, because it is a big day around the Western Conference. The Lakers are in Dallas. Warriors only care about that because if the Lakers lose 2 more times in their final 3 and the Warriors win out, the Warriors will catch the Lakers. Unlikely, but possible. Of course, Warriors are hosting San Antonio. That's also happening tomorrow. Denver is in Sacramento. Warriors should be rooting for Sacramento in that one big time because one Denver loss and a 3-0 Warriors stretch to close the year means the Warriors catch Denver. So Warriors are big Kings fans tonight. And by the way, the Warriors did the Kings a favor tonight because Warriors beating Phoenix guaranteed Sacramento a top 10 seed. They are officially in the play-in, just TBD if it will be the 9 or the 10. So the Warriors helped the Kings out tonight. The Kings can return the favor with the win versus Denver tomorrow. And then the other big one is Houston in LA versus the Clippers. The Clippers on a back-to-back. Houston is not. Houston has locked up the 2, which means we don't know exactly what they're going to be playing for, the Houston Rockets. But the Warriors fans should be rooting big time for Houston in that game as well. So the real quick rundown of who you should be rooting for if you are a Warrior fan. You want Dallas to beat the Lakers. You, of course, want the Warriors to beat the Spurs. You want Sacramento to beat Denver. And you want Houston to beat the Clippers. Tomorrow, a big day around the Western Conference. And today, the playoff race took a little bit more shape. It will take even more shape tomorrow. You hope the Warriors get the job done with a win versus the Spurs. Both those teams off the back-to-back, and that game tips off at 7. Pre-game coverage begins at 6 right here on 95.7 The Game. All right, that'll do it for Warriors wrap-up tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks, as always, to everyone and all of the interaction on our calls, on the text line, on the YouTube chat. As always, we'll be back tomorrow, bright and early, 6 to 10, the morning roast, 10 to 2, Steiny and Goo, 2 to 6, Willard and Dibs, and then we got Warriors basketball with Warriors Live beginning at 6 ahead of Warriors versus Spurs from Chase. Tomorrow, tip-off is at 7 here on 95.7 The Game. It's a big day. It's a big time of the year. Warriors making their final push towards the postseason, and today they took a major step in the right direction. Winners 133-95, 47 wins on the year. They have now surpassed their win total from last year with their 47th win, and they still have 3 games left. 50 wins somehow is still possible. 50 wins, indeed, still possible. All right, that'll do it for us tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. For Cam Williams behind the glass, for Chris O'Connell cutting up all that Steve Kerr, Pajemski, Curry sound, my name is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time right here on 95.7 The Game.